Welcome into Lions postgame. Lions fall to Kansas City 17-30 on Sunday Night Football. Drop to 4-2 on the season, and they have a meeting with Tampa Bay next week on Monday Night Football. That one's going to be massive in the NFC or playoff seed, whatever it is. It's going to be a massive game, and it's also the game before the bye week, which feels like it's coming at a great time right now. Man, we need to hit that bye week. We absolutely need it in terms of getting some help back, specifically in the back end, potentially with Taylor Decker as well. And Ali McNeil, hopefully he's also going to be up this next week as well. It'll be a third week of practice after opening that 3-week window. So it seems like he's probably going to be back at it this next week. But that being said, we got a lot of things to dive into here. A very tough loss that was difficult because it felt that I didn't think we had the best adjustments or lack of adjustments towards the end of that game. I think we did a lot of things well coaching wise, specifically in the first half. I thought the game plan for the most part was really strong, that we were in a lot of good positions to make things happen. And we probably should have been up 6-13 or 17-6 at least going into halftime. And then a drop pass by St. Brown over the middle kind of left that in play, and then also allowing that touchdown then before half. So it was a very tough string of events, and it felt like we had just too many of those in this game, specifically in the first half. I mean, Dan said it coming out of half. He said 3 plays that essentially were the difference between flipping this game upside down, and that was the case. But then in the second half, I don't know if I point to like 3 plays. I guess we'll see as we walk through this, but we made some adjustments. Defensively, I didn't feel like we made the right adjustments, and maybe there was a couple plays that just didn't go our way and allow us to completely get back into that game specifically. So a lot of things to dive into, but yeah, let's jump right into it. So let's first start here with the Lions rushing the football in this game. I actually thought it was pretty good. The Lions ran the ball pretty well. Gibbs, 65 yards, 3.8 a carry is much lower than you would like to see, especially for how dynamic he is. That being said, though, it was really one drive in the second half that really stalled out. And I didn't hate it because it was following the same game plan that they had in the first half. Heavy personnel, 12 personnel. We're going to run through that. Jumbo packages offensively. And I thought it was just an extension of what worked in the first half. It just so happened that drive stalled out, as we'll talk about. I think Kansas City had some adjustments as well, and I don't think the Lions were quick enough to get to their drop back passing on first down, which I thought would be the balance. Is like, hey, obviously you can run the ball against this team, but you have to have drop back passing as well. We went through that in our preview. On first down, quick passes, get the ball out of your hands. They play match coverage, cover 3 match, cover 4 match. So underneath passes are going to be open. You can clear guys out, get underneath. And they had a fantastic responding drive after the one that stalled out around midfield. But unfortunately, they just didn't get enough cracks at it after that because then they allowed another touchdown defensively. So unfortunately, I thought while they did some things really well in terms of adjustments and the plan, they just didn't get enough looks at it, specifically on the offense side of the ball. But knowing coming into this game, having to score 30 points, my prediction was 30-27 for the Lions coming into this one. So it felt possible. But the fact that we had 10 points at halftime felt very clear. Like, man, we just left too much on the field. Like, there's no reason we have 10 points at halftime because it felt like we were playing well. But you start with the first drive, which stalls out in goal line territory. You get called with a interesting penalty. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. I actually don't know the rules on how that works with the quarterback under center. Obviously, he's not on the line of scrimmage, so he shouldn't have to get set for a second. But because he's the guy that's close to being under center, I guess maybe there's different rules there. I don't know. I don't understand it. I'm not going to act like I do. But that penalty happens. That takes off a touchdown off the board. And you were very creative that opening drive. It wasn't like John Morton was holding anything back really that first drive. And I really liked it because I thought the plan made a lot of sense. They came out very heavy, running the football, multiple tight ends, and it was the same approach that they really carried throughout the game, which was the right approach in this game, was to play heavy offensively. And they carried that the whole way. And I think they started off well. That's why they moved the ball. It was consistent. 4-yard. There's a 1-yard run in there. They ended up hitting JMO on an out route, which was really important. They brought the cover 3 blitz, which again is kind of what they do anyway. 6-yard run, getting downhill on a 3rd and 2. They did a little hook and ladder, which didn't pop as much, but they did a little hook and ladder to try to get to the edge a little bit. Still 4-yard gain, just kind of tapped out of bounds there. But they ended up getting 6 yards behind the run, 4 yards behind the run, 3 yards, 3. I mean, it was just run before they got to the 2, and then obviously they stalled out at the 2-yard line. So with that being said, I really like the approach from jump, the way that they attacked going at it from jump. Okay, let's add on to that, though. Let's get into beyond that because obviously they had to settle for the field goal after that first drive, and we'll start on the defensive side of the ball here. There was a couple of things that we need to talk about here. First off, I thought coming into this game, Kansas City, what they did in the second half, at least to start the second half, was going to be more so of what it looked like starting the game. Much more run-pass option on first down, much more of, kind of a little bit of that, much more of the quick passing game, getting out into the flats. That's kind of what they've been. They've been a heavy half roll team, heavy rollout team. Like none of that really changed offensively. They were still kind of the same team. in terms of just the way they approached the game. Nothing really changed that much. I mean, obviously, run after catch was a big part. We missed a big tackle. Speaking of three of the big plays, obviously the drop in the first half, but the big missed tackle over the middle of the field that turned into a big chunk for Travis Kelce, the broken play, which was a missed sack by Aiden Hutchinson, which picked up 30 yards. The way that they found success offensively, and this is why, to me, the first half didn't feel anything out of the ordinary. It was kind of what I anticipated would happen. It was just kind of the difference of, all right, you had about a couple plays that you didn't make happen. They made happen in the first half. So all of a sudden you're down by 3 at the end of the first half. But overall, I think the way that the game ended up playing out through the first half was nothing out of the ordinary for the most part. And shout out to everybody in the chat right now. I see y'all popping in here, man. How you guys doing? But let's start. So we got that defensive first possession. And again, I think our run defense came out pretty darn good. Obviously, they were not great to finish this game, right? I mean, when they needed to get off the field, they didn't. One thing that stands out to me as well here is this. Obviously, this is the thing that I was most frustrated about watching the game. Not to say that I don't understand it. I clearly understand it in terms of playing base package against 11 personnel down the stretch there. But Kansas City were a very mixed team in terms of 11 and 12 personnel, and they'll go heavy, they'll go light personnel. And I thought coming into this game, they may really lean 11 personnel to say, hey, Lions, put one of those DBs that you haven't had around there very long on the field, right? Make that guy play. And we didn't really feel, I think, the effects of that a ton until really that second half. And that one like drive that turned into the touchdown that just felt like it kind of put it all away, put them up 27-17 at the time, is when the Lions just sat in base personnel defensively against 11 personnel offensively. And when you do that, man, you just open the world to, oh, it's zone coverage. Obviously, it's zone coverage. That linebacker's not coming to receiver over the slot. We know that they're in zone coverage. So it opened up so many windows in that quick passing game. And I just wish that they would have gotten back to get the third DB back on the field, get a little bit more speed back on the field, right? That was obviously the biggest issue that I had watching live defensively. And I'll talk about another one that I had as well, but we'll continue from there. There's a couple other things. Yeah, Brian Branch got into it after the game. I didn't even see it live. I came back upstairs and they're like, oh, Brian Branch, bunch of dudes. Like, okay, he got into it. He'll probably be fine. Some money. Hopefully he's not like suspended or something. All right, but find some money, and it is what it is. He's just making millions. It don't matter. I'll just be honest. It don't matter. But hopefully he's not suspended because we need Brian Branch, especially with where we're at right now. Okay, but anyways, let's stay on that defense side because, again, run defense came out good, which on paper, I really thought both sides we'd win that battle. I would say it was pretty relatively even based on the numbers, how the game ended. But through the first half especially, I felt like, okay, we were winning that battle, and it surprised me the amount that Kansas City was actually running the ball on first down. It was like, I don't understand why they're doing this. They're running into a brick wall. They're not having success on first down. And what to me made Kansas City so dynamic, specifically over the recent weeks, is that on first down, they're picking up 6, 7, 8 yards every first down, right? The run pass option, it's so consistent. Meanwhile, you get into this game and a run on first down, and it wasn't effective. It wasn't effective at all, and it was weird. I was like, I don't know why they're doing that. But to add to that point was, hey, if they're not effective on first down and they're not picking up 6 or 7 yards, which is why you get in such tough spots against this Kansas City Chiefs offense, which makes them so dangerous. If they're not getting those, now second down, you have to treat as third down, right? That was my saying for this week was like, hey, treat second as third down. Whatever that down is, treat it as that down. Like, we have to get off the field on second down. So if you get them behind the chains, treat it as we have to get off the field, meaning crank up some of the aggression of how you're attacking this team. And I just never felt like we did that enough in this game. I never felt like we got aggressive enough. I felt like we kind of sat in some of that softer zone coverage, which, again, somewhat understandable because of the team they were playing, but it felt just a touch too conservative for me. Now, that's not to say it killed us in this game, but especially early, I just didn't love that overall approach. But trust me, there's a lot more we got to get into defensively here, specifically things that maybe I didn't like in this game. And I'll say it right now. Let's just jump right into it. Second half defensively. The strategy of coming out in the second half defensively and playing soft coverage again in the back end, specifically cover 4, made no sense. So my strategy coming in was like, hey, man, look, I understand you're going to play zone on first down. You're going to want to play too deep. Obviously, you don't want to play a lot of man because Mahomes just takes off. He doesn't even look at 3. He's just looking to run, and he's a big threat in those spots. So obviously, I get why you don't want to do that on first down. I understand it. Especially if you're stopping the run, you can stay in that world. But the Lions came out in the second half. Let me actually pull the exact drive of when this happened. They came out in the second half, and I think they were playing cover 4 like constantly. And to me, just that strategy as a whole made no sense for this game because it just gave the flats. It gave them that room to make a run after the catch instead of playing, say, cover 2, where now you're playing underneath the 1. Now you have to carry the 1, and it just opens up that zone constantly. And that's what the Lions ended up doing coming out of the second half. So that was the other thing that I did not love. I just didn't love that coverage approach in general. I just like, this is the wrong approach to be playing them in the back end. But that being said, we'll continue through here. We'll make this make sense. Again, that first drive was pretty good against the run outside of the little like double counter that they had that popped a little bit. And then obviously they scored the touchdown. I think it was a third down and short. Amik misses the jam at the line of scrimmage. This is a team Kansas City's great at. Pick plays, rub routes, traffic. They're great at working through traffic. That's why it's tough to play man. To me, it's obviously Mahomes will take off and he's a threat. Some of it's speed, kind of, but I think it's mainly the fact that, man, they're really good concept-wise at getting guys open against man. They're very good at it. And one thing that I did like about Kelvin Shepard, to give him some love, I really like the fact that on third down, he came out and he was showing, man, he was getting the zone, and that was effective early. Thomas Harper had a big pass breakup on one of the fourth down stops that we had early in this game. That was a massive play. And that was 10-6 at that point. Again, that's where we kind of stalled out. And we were dumb before half. But the point is, that was a massive play. And that, to me, was a very good strategy. It didn't mean that was perfect, but it was a very good strategy by Kelvin. I'm glad that he implemented that and saying, hey, we're going to show some man. We're going to drop in the zone, because it did work against this Kansas City offense. So I did appreciate that happen. But let's jump back to the offensive side of the ball, because we ended up scoring a touchdown, and this was a response. I mean, we just weren't on the field. We just weren't on the field enough. The fact that we responded like this, stayed with the heavy personnel, ran the ball pretty darn well. They went to that jumbo look with 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, 6 offensive linemen. Tristan Cologne's getting in the game. By the way, love to see it. Love to see it, Tristan Cologne. Love that he's out there. They're going weak runs. They're going away from it. Bam. They're having success running the football, and they're doing it away from that look, and they're kind of showing the same looks over and over with Saint. They're stacking the receivers. They're giving the same looks. I love that. And they end up scoring the touchdown with very good pass protection. But I also got to believe, because I didn't mark down all the downs of these, that a lot of these were also on early downs, which is a huge part of when you can pass the ball against this team. Let me pull it up real quick. So that first touchdown that we have is, that was a 3rd down and 3. So that's just really good pass protection. Shout out to them. They held up there. But anyways, that was like the little mesh underneath. They had to dig behind it. Pass protection was really good. Goff hit J-Mo, walked him into the end zone. Bam, big touchdown. So the offense was doing fine. They were doing their thing in the first half. But again, they stalled out before half, as we'll get to. Defensively, we make the huge stop the very next possession. That keeps it at 10-6. That was the play where, they ran the rollout. The Lions went cover 3. Safety dove down, broke it up. Shout out to Harper for making that happen. It's set up because on 3rd and 18, we gave up 17 yards, which is obviously way too much to give up in that spot. But still, what I did like is that we were still in that spot, fairly effective against the run. The problem was, again, we're seeing it here. This drive, the first 2 downs, cover 4, right? You miss a sack. Now it's a big chunk play. Then Kirby, they end up picking up 6 yards on Kirby Joseph. No, he gets injured. I'm sorry. Kirby Joseph gets injured on that play. They didn't pick up 6 yards. But doing that on first down was not the approach in this game. And I think that the Lion, and really other teams have done the same thing. You just give them too much free access. But I think that we got away with it more so in the first half than anything. Obviously, we limited explosives, and it could have been a game plan. And this was in my mind, is that the Lions may be approaching like this. I wouldn't have approached it like this as much as maybe they did, but it could have been their mindset of hey, we can't give up the explosive. As long as we don't give the big play, we make them work for these drives, and then we just get tough in the red zone. We're going to have to score a lot of points, and we're going to do that, and that's how we're going to win this football game. And I kind of get that to an extent. I feel like in some ways that's how they probably approached looking at this game. But to me, I didn't feel as concerned about the vertical. I know Tyquan Thornton had big plays, and none of that really showed up today. So I guess to that point, they did their job. It's just that you have to be more efficient and take advantage of those opportunities in the first half or offensively where you didn't. That way that works. I mean, if you're up 6-17 at halftime, hey, dude, this works perfectly. Now we can really lean into this. We're playing the perfect game. This is awesome. But you don't, and now you're down 13-10. But that being said, I would have been more aggressive, I think, beyond maybe that approach just in general. But a lot of teams have kind of played them that way. I would have probably been a little more aggressive, but I don't think it's crazy to say play cover 2 on first down. I don't think that's crazy, but defense makes a great stop. And then offensively, that's where we stalled out. That's where those critical downs have to have it. For us, 3rd and 4, we ran the football, which I did like. I was with running the ball on 3rd down. I was with it. We only picked up 2 yards, but it was a 4th down and 2. Graham gets cooked. Goff has to get out quickly, hit St. Brown in the hand. St. Brown drops it, right? So it was those key downs. And look, that was going to carry out through the game. It was who's going to come through in those spots? Because on 3rd and 4th down and short, we've seen it all year for Kansas City. They're not doing that much creatively in the back. They're manning up. They're matching up in the back, and you're going to get one-on-one opportunities. But who's going to get open? And can you hold up against that front? And in that spot, we didn't. But then also, we dropped the ball. So that was one of those first matchups where it's okay, this is the game we're playing. We just didn't make it happen at that point in the game. And that was the big one that kind of swung the game, it felt like, because again, we were doing a lot of the same things up to that point. A 5-yard run, a 1-yard run on 3rd and 4, Goff took off. Why? Because they're manned up in the back end. So he takes off, gets first down. That's good pass protection, right? Make that happen. A 15-yard run, 6-yard run. You have to throw it away because, Skipper gets blown up. And I think that may have been their shot attempt on that 2nd down when it was 2nd down and 4 to say, okay, this is our opportunity to maybe get a shot over top. And then obviously that led to the 3rd down where it's hey, we're going to run it. We're going to, we're going to pass rush front. We're going to run the football. And then on fourth down, you just don't make it happen because you drop the pass. Anyways, let's continue on from there because this is where things start to get interesting. And defensively, like there was enough negatives in the first half, which I think was a really big positive. Like we were definitely playing fast in terms of what we were doing. I just think Kansas City made some good adjustments at half, and I don't think we really retaliated incredibly well to what it was. I think the plan coming in was very strong from Kelvin, and it felt meshed pretty well with the approach as a team. I just don't feel like it really, at least watching it live, it really bent and matched the energy of how the game was actually going to make it make sense as the game was going on. I mean, they tried the little screen. It was blown up by Alex Anzalone, but then they hit the sideline pass for 14 yards on Rocky Sin. He's playing so soft in coverage. Again, you're playing on top of one. You're playing so soft in the back end, right? 2-yard run. And then again, it's second down 8. Okay, now let's get aggressive. Let's push him back. No, you just give him a free access, sit down a curl route, soft coverage, bam, that's the first down. Like that to me was the part that didn't make sense. But then, hey, the quarters did work because it took away the shot play. So you got to give him credit because, first down, they take a shot at the end zone. It's not there at all. It's incomplete. It hasn't really been there for him much this year. Then the next second down 10, I thought we got lucky because Travis Kelce, I believe, dropped the out route. It was like, hey, that's not the right coverage. And again, we're playing so much base. And I don't know that it was in that point, but if you can't man up, now you're just telling them that. And they've done a really job with stacks and kind of creating these windows openings where here Kelce drops the ball. I felt like we got lucky and it set up the 3rd down and 10. And that's when we get caught for the defense pass interference. Definitely had some unfortunate flags. Timing wise, they were a disaster. A 3rd down and 10 to get a defensive pass interference on Rocky Sin, ball that was completely uncatchable. That was a disaster. Second half, Aiden Hutchinson gets called for roughing the passer on what would have been a 3rd down and 7, which was second down was the key down, treated like 3rd down. You had him throwing it at the ground, no flag there, but you get called Aiden Hutchinson for roughing the passer. Now it's 3rd down and 7. Now it's 1st down and 10. It's 15 yards. Like we had some very untimely flags. And I'm not here to argue with all of them. Obviously, I think some of them are weak sauce because that's the NFL today. But regardless of that being the case, the timing was a disaster for a few of these. And that really set up that drive. I mean, that was it. At 3rd down and 10, it's like, hey, man, we're fine. It's a complete pass. Nope, here's your flag. And that sets them up for them to score. And Jack Campbell just misses by that much, undercutting a route. So the first half defense, like, for me, based on expectation, especially, was very strong. I was like, hey, we're going to win the game like this. I felt very good feeling like the defense is playing like this. The plan they've come in with, as long as they continue to do what they've done, which is they made adjustments, they've changed, and they made some adjustments I did like, right? Second down, we'll talk about it. But that being said, the first half defense, I was very happy. Even the speed option touchdown, we were in position to make the play. We had a backer out there. We had Stewart's 2-on-2. He's missed the tackle. But the defensive position we put ourselves in was fine. It was fine. And then obviously we end up going to half. You could see right there that's not the game we wanted to play, which was drop back. Obviously, you have to pass the ball going into halftime. Feeling some pressure. Goff kind of just threw the ball away before. I probably had Test on a drag. I don't think we would have scored on that anyway. But that being said, that takes us to halftime. And here's where things to me just went downhill. And it started defensively because we didn't really change much. Like I thought coming out, if I'm Kansas City, there's no way I'm running the ball on first down anymore. And they continued to do it. And it wasn't that effective. But it ended up being towards the end of the game. Credit to them. They kind of, I don't know if I want to say they wore us down, but they when they had to run the ball to end the game, they did. So credit to them for that. We didn't get off the field. Even against base personnel, we didn't get off the field. But that said, they came out, immediately ran a bubble screen, run pass option bubble, first down. So it's like, okay, that's the game that I thought they were going to play from jump. But that's also the weakness of what we're doing. And that first drive was the most frustrating drive as a Lions fan watching it because this was Kansas City's film. This is who they are. RPO first down. Now they stretched, ran it for a first down. Okay, that's fine. They ran the ball, had effectiveness there. But then the very next play, cover 4, they throw it into the flat, first down. The next play, they run the speed rollout. They drop the pass. Okay, hey, great. We're in a good spot here. 2nd down and 10. Now they get the broken play. We end up bringing 4 rushers on the play. It turns into a broken play. They end up catching it, I guess, somehow over the middle of the field, which again is such a big reason that they have big plays in general, just because broken plays. They somewhat catch it, and then they run up to the ball, and I don't think he caught it anyways, but then they snap, and then we get called for offside because they didn't look at it, whatever. But just that sequence of okay, why are we giving them those? I just didn't like it. But again, to be fair to them, the idea of playing that kind of coverage is, hey, we're forcing it underneath. We're not giving up the big play over top, and we're young at corner, so we're going to play soft. You can also defend the run pretty well when you're in quarters. But that being said, obviously the benefit is you force it underneath, and they were doing that. So credit to them. They weren't giving up the big play in those spots. I think the biggest issue I had was second down not being more aggressive. And we had opportunities, but broken plays, things like I just wish we would have tried to put him on his heels a little bit more than we did in those spots. Bringing a 4-man rush consistently was a mess. I didn't like that as much. Now, I thought we made some good adjustments, and that was probably the best adjustment to me was what we started to do on second down, as we'll talk about. They run that jet touch play. That was easy. I mean, you knew they were manned up. The safety's got to roll over top. He just out leveraged us. Okay, good stuff there. And then offensively, the reason that we stalled out on the next drive, I didn't have an issue with the plan because it was essentially just like, hey, first half it worked. We did offensively work. We ran the ball well. We didn't have to go drop back passing on first down. So let's just keep doing the same thing. And it's like, okay, I mean, I can't hate it. 5-yard run, first down, second down, you pick up 2 yards, third down and 3. He hit St. Brown. You got to win on those spots, and he did. First down, a 15-yard quick route to JMO where no one's matched up over there. So the plan I wasn't completely mad with, but ultimately, and the credit to Kansas City, I think they really locked in on, hey, we just got to stop the run on first down. It's clear what they're going to do. They're going to try to bully us. We can't let them bully us. And we tried 2-yard run, put us in 2nd and 8. That's the game you can't play. See, this was the thing about Kansas City. The balance between running the ball on first down and drop back passing on first down for me. That's how I thought you had to play. Now I say drop back. It doesn't mean like, hey, let's take shots. It was just get the ball in your hands, spread them out. If you're in heavy personnel, go 12 personnel, go wide. We'll go empty, and we'll just 4-yard pass, 5-yard pass. That's how I thought you had to approach this thing. And then obviously you should be able to run the ball, so you can do that. So the Lions said we can run the ball, so they did that. So they didn't go the other direction. They eventually did the very next drive, which is great. We just kind of ran out of time, to be honest with you. But in this case, once it's 2nd down and 8, that's not great against this defense because that's where the entire playbook felt like it opened. On film, it was like, hey, Kansas City 2nd and 8, they're going to throw everything at you. You don't know what's coming. So as an offense, you're at midfield, they run the screen, the little swing route, and it gets blown up, loss of 3. By the way, the screens outside were a mess. The running back screen was good in Montgomery. It's a great time for that play call in high red zone like that. But we ran one on a 3rd down and 11, which was 2 plays later. Tesla doesn't block anybody. We get 2 yards. This play, loss of 3 yards. I understood it. In theory, it just didn't play out that way. I'll have to see that one back, but it just didn't play out the way that was like, oh, okay, obviously they blitzed, so it worked. That's when I thought they would crank up blitzing with 2nd and long, but I don't think they blitzed anybody on that play. And that's the game that you play. So as unfortunate as that drive was because of missed assignment, if you can at least block somebody, maybe you pick up 6 on the screen, you go for it on 4th and 5. Maybe it's interesting. Maybe you put a long field goal out there. I mean, something. You didn't even give yourself a chance because you didn't do that. But at least the very next drive, they adjusted to it. And we're going to get there, right? We're going to get there. But defensively, again, here's where I want to give Kelvin credit because I have been obviously disappointed with a lot of things this game. And again, just watching it live, the thing that I did appreciate with Kelvin, this is where I want to give him some love, is I thought that on 2nd down, he made an adjustment this drive, right? They ran it again, ran into a brick wall, picked up a 3. And it's like, okay, great. 3-yard run. That's what you know. And then they run a little swing pass, and the pass rush front, they adjusted it. So this one, instead of playing kind of your base front, it was 2nd down and 7. And we're like, hey, we're going to put that pass. They had Derek Barnes lined up in the A gap, right? They had Al Kwani Muhammad finally in the game. They didn't have Tyler Lacey out there. They were like, yo, we're just going to get after him. We're just going to get pass rush here. And I loved that adjustment because that was, like I said, I thought on 2nd down, you got to treat like 3rd down. So if you're going to treat 2nd and 7 like 3rd and 7, that means you're putting your pass rush package out there. So I loved this because like, hey, let him run the ball. And I think it was clear Lions were like, hey, we don't want to give the run. So we're going to have Tyler Lacey play a lot, but that got Muhammad in the field. So it was great. It was like, okay, this is very good. And it worked out. You get him in 3rd and long. They would give him up the 1st because you're kind of slow to get underneath. Again, you're showing man on 3rd. You go to zone. Malay's a little bit late to get over there. But you still get off the field. It's 2-yard scramble. The next play, they kind of run like the little level rollout thing. Hutch makes a great play. It's incomplete. Then 3rd down, you kind of play the Lamar Jackson defense. We're kind of spying. We're keeping eyes on. And I love that because it was like, hey, if you run that, and look, we're going to talk about it. Well, we kind of did a little bit. Timing wise, the O-line had some very Swiss cheese moments. There's no doubt about that. Rich City, we had some very poor timing moments off. I mean, Graham Glasgow, the one time not blocking the linebacker at all, just watching Bolton come in. And Bolton was that guy. Tate Ratledge had maybe the worst block attempt of the game, it felt like, on the right guard, where, I mean, Chris Jones slipped him immediately, picked up a sack, especially at that point where they knew we were passing. It's why we had to avoid that game, playing that game. And it wasn't that Kansas City was such a bad run defense, like, yo, you're going to bully these. But we ran pretty well in the first half. So it was like, all right, I got it. I got it. I get it. But anyways, and that's why it's throwing on first down is effective because it's like, well, you slow down the rush. And on top of that, you also kind of minimize some of the blitzing stuff, which is why I think it worked here in a second. But I like that. Now it's 3rd down and long. They're playing the, I think they brought 2-man rush. They had some spies underneath. It's like, hey, we're keeping Holmes in the pocket. And I love that. And they picked up a scramble, but we got off the field. And then offensively, came out with a great plan. It was a fantastic plan offensively. We said, okay, scrap the running on first down. We're going to throw it on first down. And it was like, this is what I would have done the last drive. But that said, I can't also blame him because it's hard. I know that it's hard as a coach to see one thing be pretty successful and then come on the second half and be like, I'm going to change it just because. It's like, but it worked, right? Well, here you come out and they made an adjustment. It's just we didn't have enough opportunities at this point. We'll talk about why. Obviously, we missed some in the first half. And then defensively, we couldn't get off the field after this drive because this drive was great. We come out throwing it, play action, out of the gun, 20-yard check down. They're carrying everything. So you just go to St. Brown underneath, 11 yards. They're going cover 3 blitz, under 11 yards underneath. Curl to St. Brown, 11 more yards. St. Brown, a little whip runners, 5 more yards. Jet touch pass to JMO, 7 yards. Because they're carrying everything. Their defense is 3-match, 4-match. So obviously they're going to carry anything that runs vertical. So underneath passing is open. That's what, like, hey, get the ball quickly. And they were attaching play action to that, which I thought was nice too because it held backers. So you hold backers with the run fake, and now you're having guys carry. Now you're really opening them the underneath pass. So it was a really good way to make it happen. And it felt that it also slowed down the rush. Because one thing that is a challenge with that is on paper, it sounds great, but you also can allow that rush to really get after once they see like, oh, they're just lining up a gun. They're not running out of the gun formation. Attach a little play action to that. And all of a sudden that rush slows down a little bit. You can start moving protection a bit. And it was good. It was a really good drive. It was well done. Laporta made a ridiculous touchdown grab, which I don't want to be overlooked in this game. It was insane. He hit his over. We had JMO. He hit his over. Okay, shout out those guys. But then this next drive defensively was it. And we'll go through this one and we'll leave it there. This was the dagger, right? This was it. 3-yard run. They came out running. It was like, okay, I don't know why they're still doing that. Great. Then they had the Hutch was called for roughing, and this was it. This was like, hey, Hutch getting called for roughing would have been 3rd and 7. You ran the stunt up front. Again, you're 2nd and 7, you shouldn't run stunts, right? Most time, you don't run a stunt on 2nd and 7. You can run the football. You did here. And that's because they were treating 2nd down like 3rd down. Thank goodness, finally. And it worked. But you get called for a roughing the passer. And then they do a little end around, pick up 6 yards. Out 2nd and medium. That's a quick little curl out in zone. That's a first down. And then here's where I was the most frustrated. And I don't want to say I'm overreacting because I think it's real. But it's also, I understand it. It's not that I don't come from a place where I don't understand why you do this. Like Mole got beat. He was late to get out there and cover 3. He didn't seem to go back to him until the end, which when he went back to him, he got a sack. So I was like, oh, who would have thought? He works better in coverage than 3 linebackers. But they're sitting in 11 personnel, and the Lions aren't matching it. They're banged up at DB, so they're just saying we're going to play base. And it makes sense to an extent. 1, you better be dominant against the run, which they weren't. But 2, in coverage, you're playing zone, and we did pretty much every play. So they were just like, hey, RPO, bam, first down. You're on base again, great. We'll run a screen, make you go out there and chase to 8 more yards. Inside zone still picked up the first down, stretch for 6 yards. That's too much. But it was like, dude, why are we playing the base package here at this point? Why are we doing that? And then they run the little drag where we're in man coverage. And obviously they were going to do that because they run great man beaters. They create traffic and he just runs over the middle. That's what they do really well. That was going to happen. Like you could see that coming. I don't know how there was a great play. I mean, 1, you had to switch everything off. It was either we got to pass everything off or you better have somebody just dropping out that's very unexpected. That was too vanilla. That was easy. But that's the drive that was a drive that as a fan, I was like, I just don't understand. I get it, but I also don't like it because it's not working and it's too predictable for an offense that I think I came with a different approach than them. I understood not wanting to give them the big play, but I think to an extent that game, I would have said, okay, show me that you can connect on the big play. Because I watched Kansas City this year, and in fairness, on film, they have deep routes open that they have not converted, like a lot of them. And it was actually surprising watching Kansas City. Like, dude, why are they not like converting these? But they were open. You're like, oh, that could be there. But to me, I think after seeing that and seeing some of the inconsistencies of throwing the fade to Worthy, and it's like, he's not really that open. I understand Thornton had cooked in the past. He didn't do anything today. But I think I would have got to a point where I'm like, dude, you know what? Show me you can get that shot play. Show me. But I also understand where as a team, it's got to mesh. You can't be like, hey, we're going to do that. And then it's like, oh, we give the big play. Now Dan's like, what are we doing? Now our offense is cooked. I do get that. But I think that at some point that would have been the one thing where it's like, dude, just show me you can make that play. Just let's crank the heat up a little bit. And I give Kelvin credit because I think he cranked the heat up in his own way he could by the pass rush front on 2nd down. And running a stunt on 2nd down is just that. But he wasn't cranking it to the point where I think I would have. But I honestly, I don't hate what he was doing. I think that there was some good adjustments in there. But I also just think that was the most egregious one to me. I get it because where you're at DB Health, but I also hated it because it was like, this is just not working. Why are we doing this? And then obviously offensively, you get shut down. Tate Ratledge has that big blown block and that thing gets shut down before it really even has an opportunity. And when you get back out there defensively, it's the same deal, right? It's like, oh, there's the window because they're in base package. Bam, we'll just hit that bubble. Here's 4 more yards. And that was Alex and man. He had to go run out there and man and chase to the flat. Like, that's a lot to ask. And he finally gets the sack because he put Mole back in the game and he get a sack and he's covering the flat. It's like, dude, that was the one thing that got to me. But overall, it was disappointing because I think the overall plan was strong. And I think outside of some adjustments, they were really good in this game. Some things that I disagree with offensively. I thought we were a drive late, clearly, but we made really good adjustments off of it. We just left too many plays on the field. And then defensively, a couple things I didn't like, a couple things I really did like, but it was winnable. This was a very winnable game. It's going to be tough. I had 30-27 because I was like, this is a good offense, but it was winnable. And it felt like they didn't give themselves the best chance to win. Like, I felt like at the end of that game, they didn't give themselves the best chance to actually win that game, which was the disappointing fact. So, it is what it is. Like, I'm disappointed, but at the same time, it's not like mind blowing. Like, oh, how did that happen? I think the game played out a lot of the ways I would expect it, but some ways I would have done some things different, I think. But ultimately, I'll have to watch it back, do all those things. I'm going to leave it there, though. Lions got a big one next week at Tampa. Hopefully, we get guys like a lean back. I hope they build a little more trust with their new DBs. That way they can do it a little more because I think that's going to be attacked. But it was little things. And again, against great teams or, teams like Kansas City, little things are going to get exposed. Little things are going to be what stands out. So I'll leave it there. Obviously, the O-line, they're still growing. Mahogany's been very inconsistent all year. So that just is what it is. In pass pro, very inconsistent. Tate, I didn't think he was great coming out of college in pass pro. So I think that's going to be a work in progress regardless. That's fine. You expect those things, but it's also why you kind of have to play a game you have to play. So, overall, like some of those are understandable. Skipper did a solid job, I think, for the most part, until it got the obvious pass downs. Then he's really started to feel it. But for the most part, I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty good. And it was like, oh, we didn't notice him a ton. He wasn't like dominating us. So I don't know. Campbell did say the difference between last year and this year is that we will be getting everyone back instead of losing them. Getting everyone back instead of leaving them. Yeah, injury. Shout out to injuries. Soon, like Terry at some point, hopefully, through the bye week, we start to look at that way. He didn't get put on IR. Reed at some point, Aleem, I think this week. But ultimately, it's frustrating because I don't want that. I hate that is probably gonna be the narrative. It's like, oh, they were hurt. That's why they lost. Like, I would have rather seen Mole out there and see him get torched, at the end and be like, oh, well, we just didn't trust to put him out there. It's like, dude, I think we had a real shot that game. We had a real shot. And it just, you had to play a really clean game. We didn't play clean. We left way too many plays out there on both sides of the ball. Things that weren't even scheming. Just like, we just didn't make that play. So, and some tough play penalties. With that, I'm going to leave it there. I appreciate y'all joining, and I will see you guys through the week to preview Tampa Bay and everything else. Thank you all for joining. Have a great night. And I will see you guys tomorrow on Monday. Go Lions, 4-2. It stinks. We'll be back.